The minority ethnic employment gap is growing, and it's particularly high for minority ethnic women. What do you think the problem is here, and do you think that the Scottish Government's anti-racist employment strategy goes far enough to tackle this issue? Farah, do you want to start with you?
Oh, right, okay. So, absolutely, the fact that, ethnic minority women in particular do face additional barriers. One of the roles that I'm in within SEMVO is for the Scottish Minority Ethnic Women's Network as well, so I'll do all the admin stuff and whatnot for it. But it's been really interesting to try and reach out to ethnic minority women, and what we tend to find is that if there's the usual barriers that women face when going back into employment, for example, if they've had family, if they've had children, there's still that element of cultural issues where it's not necessarily the permission needed to work, but do they have the support of family to be able to fulfill their roles, for example. So there are those issues there as well. A lot of people think there's a skills deficit, but when you actually get into the nitty-gritty and you speak to these amazing women, you realise that there's a lot of transferable skills that are there. So the fact that women are automatically, especially ethnic minority women who probably growing up have always been put down most of their life, they're coming into this place where they're immediately seen through a deficit, so they're needing to work that extra bit harder to improve their skills or to have that work-life balance. And it causes burnout and fatigue because those structures aren't there. There's a need for flexibility a lot as well, because we know, typically speaking, ethnic minority women tend to be the main carers, not just for children but for other family members, whether that be their parents or grandparents. So it's a matter of looking at what sort of flexibility is available within roles, and I know that's something after COVID that's more talked about now, but lo and behold, if it had been talked about 10 years ago or implemented 10 years ago, then we probably wouldn't be having such an issue. So amongst, again, like I said, we're aware already of barriers that women face, but particularly with ethnic minority women, there is that level of racism, stereotyping, gaslighting, particularly not being believed, which leads to anxiety. A lot of women that we speak to, they do have really unbelievable levels of anxiety when it is talking about coming into the workplace, and that will be due to past racial trauma that they probably don't even realise that is racial trauma, and then because the workplace don't acknowledge the fact that there is such thing as racial trauma that employees bring with them, it just goes it's hidden, it's not talked about, it's not addressed. So that doesn't really quite help either, and that affects confidence in itself. So again, one of the aspirations of the Women's Network is to, for example, have a mentoring programme, because that's what women are asking for, is to be able to have that confidence to sit at the table like I'm sitting here today. I'm very blessed and honoured to be at this position today, and if only there'll be other women as well that will be sitting here speaking and making their voices heard. There is a huge issue in terms of encouraging specifically ethnic minority women to come forward and sit at the table, like I said, because they believe that they won't be believed in a lot of the things that they say or they put forward.
No, thank you, Farah. Can I just ask a question on what you've just said there? I mean, obviously you and Jithan talked about there's not enough implementation, and just talking about implementation, you've just spoken about one of the actions that could be getting done is mentoring. Is that something that's being done by the government or by even third sector organisations, or is it something that you're asking for, that we need that mentoring for those females to be in jobs and obviously be understood and flexible?
Not as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
If there is, it will be something very small. I know the John Smith Centre did a leadership programme, and I think that was a cohort of 50 people, and I know Sam E have done a mentoring programme, leadership sort of programme for educators within that field through the work that they're doing on ARIP, the Anti-Racism in Education programme. But in terms of the Scottish Government particularly, there's nothing that has jumped out, or nothing that has been substantial enough to make an impact.
Okay, no, thank you. Jatin, is there anything, or Danny, you would like to add?
Just to agree, but I think Farah covered everything in detail, and that's exactly the type of expertise you need around the table to discuss this specific issue. And then on that point, we would be happy to help the committee engage directly with female-led organisations from ethnic minority communities who have a significant amount of expertise in this area to have these direct discussions.
Thank you.